All right, let's go ahead and get started. We are going to be doing exercise activity number 3. Please go ahead and do a poll. Hopefully everybody did before the class, so you should have this activity. The final result of this activity looks like something like this. So this is a basic bootstrap table, and you're filling out these movies using the Ajax. Okay. The first one I think is hard coded over here in your HTML. Okay. This is just to give an idea eventually how these rows are being populated. Okay. But you're going to write, go through the instructions. You're going to be using Ajax to get this information and populate this table. Okay. With your unsolved, I think it just shows the first row because it's hard coded. Let's take a look at this. This is how it looks like. Okay. So you need to fill it with more than one movie. Start with at least one, that add one row, and then bonus is you can add multiple movies over here. Okay. The Ajax code is kind of already written, but if you complete this part, if you want to add a new movie, please go ahead and write it yourself, just to so that you guys kind of get used to that syntax. Okay, look at the HTML. It's using Bootstrap. It already has the structure. You guys are going to use jQuery, get this information, and then populate this row. Okay, so this exercise gives a good idea how to make a API call, get that information, and then render your HTML. So this is exercise number 3, Ajax to HTML. What I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this Ajax call, and I'm going to do it like from scratch. You know what? I'm just going to move this out from here. Ajax to HTML. JS. I'm going to move all my JavaScript file out of it. Script. This is good. This thing. Okay, I don't need the script. Don't need this. Format it. Then I'm going to move my jQuery script on the top. Let's see, let's move it here. Okay, all right, that's better. Nice to see that. So this is all my HTML. This is hard coded, and you're going to insert the next row from your JavaScript code. Then I'm going to add the document ready. And document dot ready function takes a callback function using anonymous syntax, and I'm going to wrap this whole thing inside my document dot ready. Okay. What else? Do a console log to make sure this is working. Let's go back and look at our console. Am I not running this? Oh, it's running a different. Let's see. Okay, so I'm missing something, and that is I didn't add my script file. That's why. So let's go ahead and script source dot slash, and this is working. Okay. Okay, don't need this. Now go ahead and do the Ajax part. Oops. Let's. Can I use the template literal? Or is it just valid for? Let me try that. So, let's see this thing. Dollar. What's that? Movie. Ah, that's so much better. Yes. So make sure you take the reference from the HTML. So basically in jQuery you have to create a row and then TDs and then add information. Okay, for example, if I want to add a new row, it's just going to be this information, right? TRs and TDs, and this should add a second row for me. Okay, so this is going to be generated in jQuery. So TR, TDs, append TDs to TRs, and then append the TR to tbody. And the values of this TD is coming from your Ajax call. Title, year, and actors. So how do I make the Ajax call? It's dollar dot Ajax dot then, right? This is the syntax. So you will see I always start with the stubbing it out and then fill it up because it's easy for me to, now I know my parentheses are good. I just need to fill out these values. Okay. Um, let's add this to a new line so I can see them nicely formatted. Okay. So Ajax takes an object. Okay. The first property requires a URL, and our URL is over here defined in a variable. So you can pass in this thing, comma, and the second is your HTTP method, and we are doing a get call. Oops. Okay. And then whatever response comes back, I want to put it over here. Okay, so I'm going to use anonymous function syntax. So the first function returns, I'm going to call it this time data. Okay, you can call anything. The first anonymous function when the success happens, the second is when error happens. So if there's any error, I'm going to just console log for now. Oops. Okay. See if I put this on a new line, does it look any better? Okay. Just add a comment. This is success callback, and this is error callback. Okay, this I'm using the anonymous syntax. Now if this is successful, I should get some response. The first thing I do is I just console log. Oops. Because I don't know what the data looks like. How do I parse all that information? Until I do a console log, I won't know that. So do a console log, run this, and if I pass in the movie Inception, it gives me everything. Okay, so this means my Ajax call is working. I'm able to see the data, and then the three properties that I'm interested in are title. So it's going to be title. So I'm going to replace this so that I don't have to keep going back and looking up the names. It's going to be the property name is title. Let's see what the year is called. This is for year. So this is the property that I need to pull out. The last one is actors. So all of them are actually string. So that's nice. Okay. This is how you do the Ajax while you're getting the data back. Now you need to use jQuery to basically add this in a row. So what I did was I copied the HTML so that I can refer back and see how do I construct this. T-body is already there. I just need to create rows, TDs, use the data that came back, and then append it to the T-body. But this is how you would do the Ajax call, get the data, and over here you're going to construct the whole, the next row. Is everybody getting the data back? Because that's the more important part. The next is jQuery, and you guys have already done it, so it should be okay. But the important is if you don't have this information, it's not going to show anything. So I need the reference for the T-body. So let T-body is equal to jQuery, and then the tag is going to get this tag. And then I need to create. I just need a reference, so no angular brackets required. I need to create a new row, so let's call it T row. And if I'm creating, this time I need the HTML element, creating a new row. So I got the reference for this, created a new row. Okay, now I need to create new TDs, 4 TDs. Okay, let T, let's call it title TD. Okay. Let's see what's the do a TD. Okay, this will create a new one and then simply add a text. That's where this should go. So text, and then my text is coming from my data.title, right? My data object has a property called title. That's what I want to show. So data dot title. Okay, that's my first TD. Second is year. So let be similar. Let t year TD is equal to dollar, create a new TD text, and this time it's going to be data.year. Okay, the property, you guys know that the case matters over here because that's how the property is defined from OMDB. The last one is actors. So let t actors TD is equal to dollar, create a new TD, and then add text to this one. And this time it's data dot actors. Okay. So let me recap. So I got the reference to T-body. I don't want to create because it already exists. I'm creating a new row because this does not exist. I have to create a new row and then new TDs for each one of them. Then I need to add these TDs to my T row. So T row dot append. Okay. T title and T row dot append T year. Oops. Okay. So I created these, now appending to tr. T row dot append. The last one is T actors TD. Okay, so I have appended all these TDs to TR. The last part is I need to append this TR to T body so that it shows up over there. So T body dot append. What am I appending? This T row. And there it is. As soon as I completed that, it shows up. So the first one is hard coded, and the second one is the one that I'm getting. Okay, so what I did, make a AJAX call. Again, since I have data in this function in my success callback, this is where my jQuery code has to go. There's no place else it can go. Okay. Now, if I want to add another movie, I have to do the same thing again. Okay, so change the movie name. Let's see. Update the URL. Basically, do the same thing again after this. Is this the end of this? Yeah. So basically, I would copy this thing. This is for second movie. Okay. Let's change the movie name. Okay. Okay, so Cannot redeclare. Can I reuse it? Okay. And there is my other movie. Okay, same thing. All I did was change the movie name and the URL. So that's my first. This is my second call. Let me minimize this. Okay, this is my first call. And then my second call. Again, if you keep refreshing, you will see Inception and Dark Knight will switch places at some point. Let's see. Come on, you can do it. Ah, there you go, finally. Okay, so the order doesn't matter, but what doesn't change is the first one because you have hard coded it. This is never going to move because it's hard coded in your HTML. This is always going to render first, and then the order does not matter over here. So I have two different calls, but this one comes back first at some point. This one comes last. Most of the time, this one is coming back first. But again, you cannot rely on the order. If you want to add a third movie, the whole thing copy paste. You see where this is going? How can we refactor? A lot of code is being repeated. Okay? If you were able to do this, see if you can reduce the repetition. Probably create a function and then keep calling that function. The only thing that is changing is your movie name. Even your URL is dynamic because you have your movie name kind of injecting into it. So you can create a function, pass in this movie name, and then call this, keep calling this for different movies. Okay, I'm going to leave the refactor part for you guys, but this is how you would do your Ajax call and build your UI from here. And this syntax I'm using, remember it's a template literal. This is same as using double quotes and adding a plus. Okay, it's easy and kind of does it in one line, but it's the same thing as using plus sign and concatenating those stuff. All right, questions. Was everybody at least able to get this data back and then console log and see the object? Because if you don't have this data, I mean, rest of the stuff is doesn't matter. Oh no, I'm referring to it, so I can append to it. Oh, there's already one. No, I'm not creating. I'm appending to the same one. It's the reference. Oh, right, right. Yeah, yeah. I got it. That's why I don't have these angular brackets as a reference. Yeah. Yeah, I did it so that is kind of clear. But yeah, you can do it in just one line. This T body has a. Oh, you still have to get the. So you can do dollar and chain everything together. Again, anything that is dependent, it goes in your then function, the first one. Okay, there's no other place you can render this UI if anything is dependent on this information coming from the web API. I just copy pasted the exact same code, just change the movie name. Same thing, just change the movie name. So the only difference is just the movie name, right? The data still comes back. It's the same properties, nothing else changes. Same code. That's what I was saying. It's a lot of repetition. So the refactor would be how do you put this in a function and just call the function instead of copy pasting. So this is my first movie from line number 6 to for line number 40. If I want a second movie, I did the exact same thing from line 45 to all the same code. Yeah, I'm just updating the variable to movie. That's all. And then create. I have to make an Ajax call and everything, but it was just a copy paste. The next part would be if I want a third movie, I have to copy all these lines again and put it down. A function and then put it over there. Yeah. Okay. Keep working on this. I'll just take 4 minutes, and if anybody is interested, just going to show you how would you do the exact same thing in JavaScript. It's if this is for just people if you are curious. It's tricky. It's difficult, and that's why we are using jQuery. Um, Throughout the course and project, you will still be using jQuery, so you don't have to worry. But people do want to know that. Oh, how do I do this in like pure JavaScript? Um, so let me copy a template. Let's use this one. Yes, yes. In a for loop. Okay. Yeah, but you are still making three calls. Do you see that? In the for loop, you are still making three calls. Yeah, you are making three calls. On each iteration, it's still the same code you are making. Yeah, so there is no way to do it in like one call. You still have to make three calls. Yeah, you're doing in the code, but still making three calls. You're not saving it on the calls. Yes. Okay. So you could have achieved the same thing where create a function and put everything in a function and then yeah. But you cannot do it in like one URL. You understand that? That you cannot put one URL and put three movies in it and then get everything together. Okay. Yes. Yeah, if the API allows, then you can do it. But this one doesn't, so you cannot do in one call. Let's see, Ajax, JS. So let me remove all this. We don't need this. Don't need the jQuery. We're going to do this in JavaScript. Again, this is just extra stuff. You don't have to do any of this, or you can just use jQuery with the same thing that we saw previously. Okay. Um, so I'm going to copy the URL from OMDB. This time I'm going to use a constant, and this is going to have my URL from the previous exercise that gives me information about the Inception movie. Okay. If you are doing without jQuery, JavaScript has a function called XML HTTP request. This thing. Okay. This is a newer syntax. We haven't covered it yet, but basically it's creating a new object, right? Um, the next thing you would do is you have to open a connection dot open. Okay, in your connection, the first thing you need to pass in what kind of HTTP request that is. This is get the URL, which is the top one, and then a boolean which says this is going to be an asynchronous call. Okay. Um, the next step is to use their send method to make the call, and this will go ahead and fire the call. Okay. Now again, this is a asynchronous call, so we cannot capture that information. Instead, we need to use event listeners. This is again JavaScript. JavaScript has event listeners. Again, jQuery is masking a lot of stuff for this, but if you see jQuery code, this is what they're doing. Okay, so we have to listen for an event, and that event is ready state change. Okay, and then you can put in the callback function once that state is completed. Okay, once this event is for this event will fire when your data comes back, and your object that you declared XHR, this will have some of the responses. So you would say something like if XML ready state is 4 is an indication, and there's a whole documentation in JavaScript. 4 indicates if you get the 4 code back, this means your request has come back. And if you get a status of 2000, this means that it was success. Okay, let's capture the response. We can do let response is equal to json.parse xhr dot response text. Okay, let's do console log response. Let's go ahead and run this to see if I did this correctly. Yay, it works. Which one? The success is 200. Oh, no, 200. Yeah, success is 200. 400s are error codes. Again, this was just extra knowledge. This is how you would actually do in vanilla JavaScript. You see a little bit more complicated. jQuery does it in like one line, but if you are doing without anything, this is how you would actually make the request. Just light reading. So jQuery makes it a lot more easier to understand, and but behind the scenes, jQuery is doing something similar, and you still will get that information back. What was which one? Because this kind of comes as a string, like a literally string. Yeah, so you're trying to convert so that it kind of shows up as an object. Otherwise, you won't be able to parse it. Well, you can parse string, then you'll have to be, you don't want to do that. Yeah. All right. Any questions on the previous activity? Not on this one. Um, good. What is it? Which one? Oh, you want to see this one? I can post this. I can push it to. Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. So if you're not using any library, you would do something like this. Again, a little bit more complicated. Especially you guys probably don't know what's going on over here. We're still not as deep into JavaScript. This is a little bit different. Add event listener, similar to the on-click events, but this is what jQuery is doing behind the scenes. No. Yeah. This part? No, we're going to use jQuery for that. This part, again, even if you learn that part, when you come back to it, this would make a little bit more sense. Because this is using some new concept and we haven't covered it. So for now, jQuery is easier way to just do. You're going to learn what this new keyword means, what is going on, but it's the same concept. But that's a little bit more advanced. All right, so let's do one more exercise. This time, you might find this interesting. We'll use the Giphy API. Did you guys sign up for that? So we have Giphy even on the Slack. They also have an API, and they would actually give you back pictures and images and all GIFs. So um, use the API key and see if you can kind of get something back. So let's see if I can solve the first one. So it's the same concept. This time I'm just using a different API, the Giphy API. So the first thing is I need the URL. So let's go ahead and create a URL. Let query URL is equal to something. Okay, and how do we build the Giphy URL? Um, let me Slack this out. Okay, so this is the documentation for Giphy API. Okay, so if you go to this API, if you have signed up, you will get an API key, and then you can move on to API endpoints. Okay, they have different endpoints. Let's try the trending endpoint. So the trending endpoint will give you the GIFs that are trending. Okay, so you need to use this URL, and then the parameters. This is the only one that is required. You see it says required, so you have to pass in the API key that you get. Okay, so let's build this URL. This is my main URL, right? Trending, just copy paste over here. Let's add https:// okay, and the next thing I need to pass my API key. I'm going to store it in a variable and then append it to my previous URL. Let me find the API key. Okay, this is my API key. Please don't copy my API key. I'm just kidding. I don't think. Well, it will take some time to copy this, but anyway. So you will put your API. This is my API key. What do I need to do? I need to append. I need to pass in. This time they're using underscore. Remember in OMDB they were using camel casing. Over here they have API key again. This is the language that these guys are expecting. So that's how we would follow the same thing. Okay. So my URL is going to become. Let me move this on the top so that I can use this. Okay. Remember it was slash um, question mark. Question mark tells that everything after is a query parameter, and they are saying send in API underscore key is equal to, and then you pass in this variable that I stored my API key. And this is just for ease so that I don't have to type in the whole API key over here. Instead, it kind of makes this string. Okay. The easiest way is you can copy this and test it out in the browser, and it should give you some JSON data back. If it doesn't, this means my API, my URL is not correct. So let's replace this with my oops, with my API key. If this is good, it should give me some JSON back, and there it is. Okay, so I'm not worried about how to parse it right now, but it gives me something. It's giving me all the trending GIFs that are there. Okay, so this means the URL that I created is correct, and then I can make my AJAX call after that. So AJAX call is dollar dot AJAX, okay, and then dot then. Okay, let's complete the first one. I'm going to move this in new line so that I can see it better. Ajax function takes in an object. The first property is going to be URL, and then pass in my query URL. And the second is method, which is going to be get method. Okay. My then function takes in two callback function. The first one is if it is successful. Okay, if it is successful, I'm going to get some response or data back. Let's call this time response. Okay, and if it is not successful, it's going to give me some error. I'm going to capture that as well. Again, the error one is optional, but I like to do it so that if there's any error, I can actually see it and see what's going on. Okay. Let's move this so that I can see this better. Looks a bit nicer. Function, success. Yeah. Okay. So this is success callback, and this is error callback. Okay. If this is successful, let's go ahead and console log to make sure I get all my data back. And now I am ready to run this. Let's see, Ajax call, then get URL and get a response back. Okay, let's see if this works. I'm missing jQuery. Am I missing jQuery? No, there it is. Okay, let's try this. I misspelled response. Thank you. Yeah, I was just copying this. Oh, that was it. And there's your object. Apparently, they're sending a lot more data, but we are only interested. I don't care about meta, pagination, all this stuff, but what is required is inside this. So there's a response, and then within response, they are sending an object called data. Okay, so which is an array actually. So what I need to do is need to response.data. So this time I'm just going to get an array, and that's what I'm interested. So the trending GIFs, it sent me 25, the top 25 trending GIFs. So the first one you can see what is interesting. This one. So I can use this URL and see, kind of bring it back. Again, there's no PG filter over here, so I don't know what is this going to show. Okay, that looks to me like you guys are like very appropriate gift that showed up. All right, so this way, this information has URLs. You don't need IDs. Images are there. That's nice. Something useful. A title. Where is it coming from? Okay, some good information. But this is how you can use any other API also. Okay. Any questions on this one? Same method, just the URL is changing, and you're getting a response. This is what differs, and you need to log this first, the whole thing, to understand how would you parse it. You saw I started with just the response, right? And then I realized when I look at the data that came back, that they're sending me a lot more information like meta. I'm not interested in any of those. Pagination, not interested right now. The only thing is that what I'm interested in is URLs or images, and they are embedded inside another object called data, which is an array. So that's why I said, okay, now what I'm interested is in this array, and then it gives me an array. Now I can either loop through the array, um, get the information I'm looking for. The first element, let's suppose I'm looking for the URL. So it's going to be this property. How would I do? I would say 0, my first element, and then this URL, and this is going to output the first URL. Okay. I'm pretty sure all of them have the same property. So the second index would give me the second URL, and so on and so forth. This is just one property. Okay. Any questions? All right. So what I want you guys to do in the remaining 15 minutes is, if you signed up for this, please go ahead and sign up, and then answer C. How would you solve the first three ones? Well, the one that I did was the trending one. All right, I went to the documentation. They have all of this documentation over here. I picked the trending endpoint and studied, okay, how do I get the trending GIFs? And that's how I came up with this URL. So your job is to do something similar. Try to see how would you return back a single GIF tied to a search term. So this time I'm searching a GIF. All right, you can create a variable search and put anything like kitten, dog, or something, and then try to find out what's going to be the URL for this one from the documentation. The second would be, how would you return 5 GIFs tied to a search? So this one gives you a single. If you are able to complete this, how do I get 5 back? I don't want 25, I don't want 10, I want exactly 5 tied to this search term. Okay, and then how would you return the trending GIFs? um, I already completed this one, but you guys can go ahead and complete this one as well. Okay, all of these questions, all of this can be done from over here. They have the search one. Look at the search endpoint and see how they are doing it. Try to understand the documentation and see how you can create a URL that does exactly that. Okay, how do you return a number? Like, how do you only limit? This is this is the query parameter that you're going to use. Okay, again, take a look at the documentation, sign up for the API, and make these 3 AJAX calls. And you're just like console logging the response. That's all you need to do. So what's the URL for the single GIF type? Did anybody figure out the URL for this one? So this is the main one anyway, so okay. How would you return back a single GIF type to a search term? And then I need my API key. So let's complete that. Okay. Um, so this is still the same. The only difference is search because they're saying it's a search API. And then I need to add the search term. So they are using instead of, remember in OMDB it was T for title. They are using Q. And then with the Q you can pass in any search term. So basically you are saying Q is equal to, let's create a variable and put a search term. Nice search term. Let's use the same that they are using. They're using cheeseburgers. So if I search this term and then put it over here, dollar search term, this should bring me a single GIF related to the search number, this cheeseburgers. Let's see if that works. Oh, it should be working. Let's see. Nope. So that didn't work. It brings me the correct term, but it is searching, it is giving me all 25. Okay, but the question is, I want to get a single, just one. So the API is right, the URL is correct, but it brings me more than one. It brings me 25. How do I restrict it to one? Let's see, limit the maximum number of objects to return. All right, so by default it is returning 25. I just need one. So I need to add this limit. So I'm going to say ampersand, and they're saying it's called limit. So limit, and then you pass in a number. How do I know this? Because it says integer 32. So pass in 1. This should give me just 1, and there it is. Okay, still gives me an array, but it returns me with just one element in it. Okay, so this is how I get just one GIF. This kind of solves the next one also. If I want to get 5 back, just same thing, change the limit to 5, and this should give me 5 back. Okay, any questions? So this is a kind of important exercise because your next week homework is, I think, tied to this. Is that right, Ethan? Yeah. You'll be using Giphy, the API, to kind of solve your homework. So make sure practice this. Sign up for the API key. Make sure you have your own API keys. Um, make sure you understand the AJAX part, how we are making these async calls, and then how we are getting the response back. Remember the jQuery exercise we did just before with the table one? So how do you create that? How do you generate the HTML once you get the data back? Okay. So on Tuesday we'll be continuing this activity, the same topic, and we'll be doing a lot more activities. We'll be looking at some different APIs, and then please watch out on Slack. I'm going to Slack out the APIs that we'll be using. I want you guys to sign up and bring your own API keys, okay? Because that will help you doing exercises and in the future also. So because I don't want people using my APIs or API keys or the one that is default over here. Again, it's possible we reach the limit. That's why. So I'm going to post on Slack maybe tomorrow or Monday before the Tuesday's class. I'm going to post what APIs we are going to be using. So look at those APIs. If you have time, understand them, but do sign up for the API key. Okay, you'll be using your own APIs keys going forward. Okay. Well, we are here 2:30. Please let me know if any questions related to these exercises, or I can go over them if there's any confusion. All right. Yeah, there's these are questions that kind of are in a. I can post it. I think did I slag them out? I did not. I'll slag these out. It was more like just to come up with new activity, but I can post these questions. Okay. You know what? I'll post these questions out. All right. Have a good rest of the weekend. I'll see you guys on Tuesday.